Hey, what's up, guys? Today's I'm gonna do a deck profile update on my Invoked Dogmatika Dragoon deck, and yeah, and give you a bit of a tournament report at the very end of the video, and talk about that too. I went to a tournament yesterday, had about maybe 30-ish people or so. The local is pretty huge, so Yu-Gi-Oh is always a big turnout for the particular local I went to. So there's usually like 20 to 30 players a week. And yeah, I went there yesterday with a friend, and I'll talk about that at the end of the video. But let's go ahead and talk about the deck first. So this is updated for the February ban list, which was a couple days ago, I think, a couple days ago or a week ago. Um, so yeah, so I changed up the deck a little bit, and it's my first time piloting it since then. I actually haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh in actually a while at a local tournament. I've been mostly playing Magic and Modern. If you watch my channel, you can kind of see that. But I still do play Yu-Gi-Oh, and um, this is the deck I took out yesterday. Um, I was gonna play my Nightcross deck, but I was missing some cards. I was missing Baroness, so I couldn't really play that, and I could play my Blue Eyes deck, but I was also missing a couple of cards from there, so I just decided to play the deck that I currently have and um, have all the cards for and feel comfortable playing, and I did pretty well yesterday. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So pretty basic, not much. No, I guess not much has changed per se, but yeah, you still play the triple Alistair. Want to see this guy all the time. He's your main normal summon every turn if you can. Um, and then you got triple Ecclesia. I still like her at 3. I still like using her as a body. Most of the time I use her Cyber Dragon effect. Well, not really Cyber Dragon effect, but her special summon effect to get another body on board and to usually link away into like a cross sheep or into Predator Plant. This entire deck build is primarily focused on getting out Verte, so you can get out Dragoon as soon as possible, and so that way you minimize the dead draws you're gonna have later in the game, and hopefully you're just gonna draw steam for the rest of the game while your opponent is trying to fight off a red eyes Dragoon. But there are times that you'll draw, weirdly, but um, the consistent way to play this deck is just try to get vert and start eliminating some of uh, your your bricks in your deck by just dumping the red eyes fusion and the dark magician and the red eyes itself. Next year I play 3 Fleur. Fleur is still great. I still like this card. It has won me a lot of games on just being a big body by itself. Because it does attack for 3,000, which is pretty nice, and its effects is pretty nice. It's the Veiler effect kind of deal, and it doesn't target. Um, Sometimes it's dead if you don't have a link monster or an extra deck monster on the board, or if your opponents are really playing extra deck monsters. It's sometimes dead, but in this particular deck, 90% of the time you're gonna have a fusion monster on the board. You're gonna have something on the board. You might not always have Ecclesia or something, but you generally will have a extra deck monster on the board, and you always bring him out and use him as a big beater. You don't always need to negate stuff. It's just the fact that he's a 3K free body is generally pretty good enough. If not, you can also use him as another material to link away into a Predator Plant Anaconda. And the primary way you're gonna do that is if you normal summon like a Ecclesia or you normal summon Alistair, you're gonna summon Armitis, and then you can summon either Ecclesia or a Knight, and then use those two as a body to go into Vert. And once you get Verte out, yeah, that's the mainstay of the game plan. So it's to do that. So pretty pretty simple and straightforward there. Next off, got three Ash Blossoms. Still pretty staple hand trap. It's my favorite hand trap, I would say, the most flexible and best one. Usually, it's never dead, and so yeah, just overall, good card there. Next off, just this card. You don't have to play it. I like playing it because it sometimes acts as a second body or sometimes acts as a threat. What I like about this is, um, when you lose the dice roll, this card makes up. It really does increase your odds of winning going second. Like, it's crazy. Yesterday I went second a few times, and I had Dino Banker Tops on board, and it just kind of wrecked my opponent's board. I've outed a Palooza, at 2400, summoned this thing, beat over a Palooza, popped something else. Um, I summoned this thing out to just like threaten people's board, and it's hard to interact with because it does tribute itself. So negation effects, like, um, it does miss most of them. It works under skill drain, stuff like that. So overall, I still really like this card. Free 26 beater, just another big body, and very just versatile in general. But obviously, going first with him, you will brick. This deck, the way I built it, I can go either first or second. It doesn't really matter too much. And I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video in my tournament report, and now I'll kind of explain how my games went. And yeah, the games went pretty well for me. Next off, you got the two bricks, but you need them. Rarely you do anything else with them. You can use them as discard fodder sometimes. Not ideal, because if you do use them as discard fodder, then you'll never be able to bring out Dragoon. If you're playing Omega, I guess you can still recycle these back to your deck with Omega, Cyframe Omega. But I decided to take out Cyframe Omega because I never used his effect at all. I never dumped him to the graveyard to use his recycling effect. So my extra decks changed a little bit. I ended up taking him out for something else. Next off, Red Eyes Fusion. This card will win games just by playing it on its own. Like, I won a lot of games just by activating it and then setting like 2 or 3 in my back row. Like, you don't really need to summon that many monsters with this deck. Like, you don't even need to summon your Alistair every turn. You don't need to summon Ecclesia. If you have a weird hand, or if you draw this and have like 4 or 5 sets, you just activate this. If they don't ash it, you're good to go. You would just get out your Red Eyes Dragoon and then proceed to force him to try to answer it. But yeah, overall, I played 3 of it because in the case that the odds are that you want to see this in your opening hand, rather than seeing a Dark Magician or Red Eyes in your opening hand. So the sooner you see this in your opening hand, or even your first opening hand, you can just hard play it and you'll be fine. Ideally, you do try to vert into this thing, but it's not terrible if you do draw this. It's the only time it's bad is if you already use one, and later in the game you just start drawing this multiple times in a row or something like that. Then obviously it's dead at that point, But you can still use the cards as costs for like Dragoon's negation effect or Macabre's negation effect, or it's like super poly. So even though they become dead later in the game, you can still use them as like discard allies. If you're playing discard allies in this deck, then they're not very they're technically never dead, I guess. Yeah, triple gold magical meltdown. Just your third set of Alistairs, and it helps to resolve some of your fusion spell, and they can't interact with your fusion spell. Or if you summon a fusion monster, you maintain priority to kind of do whatever you want, and they can't really respond to it. Next off, just 2 invocations. Cut that down to 2. You don't really need 3. When I was playing with 3, it's because I was playing more desires. But with desires at 1, most likely you won't need to see this card that often. So 2 is a pretty good number, because you will brick with this card if you don't draw Alistair at all. Like, you'll draw invocation without any Alistairs, and you kind of lose from there. But so I think 2 is good enough. Don't really need a 3rd copy. 2 Nadir, because Nadir got limited or semi-limited. Still a pretty good card. Just a easy +2 to 3 sometimes. Generally, you will set up your board and then you activate Nadir. Or if your hand's not that good, or you can't fusion, then you can activate Nadir and get like Ecclesia and set up a small board to kind of play. So it's a pretty flexible card. It depends. I generally set up my board and then I play Nadir. And I kind of just load up my hands with a bunch of like monsters and stuff like that, just to toss away for Macabre or a Dragoon effect in the gate. So that's what I usually use a Nadir for. It's just that extra +1 or 2 to just go ahead and gain some card advantage. Next off, two Super Polys. I changed this deck a little bit, but Super Poly won me a few games yesterday. Definitely love the card. The only reason I only play two is because against certain decks it might be like a dead match or a dead card. Um, so that's why I only play two. I do side a third one, but every time I saw this card yesterday, it was pretty good. I was able to like break my opponent's board or just do something wonky or weird, and yeah, they just couldn't really out this card. There's nothing they can really do to out this card. So yeah, Super Poly, pretty good card. Monster Reborn just as another extender. So I play a bunch of one ofs because this deck is more or less just a bunch of filler cards. Like it's good stuff. Dot deck is what I think of this deck as. So I do play a bunch of one ofs and they do seem to work pretty well. So Monster Reborn as a filler. Sometimes you can bring back Dragoon. Sometimes you can bring back Macabre, stuff like that. So it works okay. It's not a bad card. Good card going first. Good card going second, I think. Because going first, if you go like Alistair and you go into Archimedes, you can reborn Alistair, and then there you go, you have a verte right there. So, not bad. Harpy Spider Duster, I just kind of threw in just because as a way to have at least an out to something, like to a skill drain maybe, or to like a Mystic Mine. Just one way to out that without using any monster effects. Oops, knocked over my tripod there. But yeah, so let me lock it down in place real quick. And my keyboard's up there. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, just a Harpy Spider Duster is my only like main board outs to spell and trap cards there. One Desire, I still like the card. I liked it at two, when it was at three, but even at one, I think it's still a good card to play. It's easy, +1. And yeah, you do. There's a bunch of one ofs in the deck that you don't want to hit. You don't want to hit like your Red Eyes. You don't want to hit your, you know, Dark Magician, or you don't want to eliminate all of your invocation. So those are the risks that you are risking. But with this deck, you can generally avoid that. You can generally avoid hitting your Dark Magician stuff because you pump out Dragoon really quickly, and then you will kind of leave a invocation in the graveyard, and then play Desire, burn through your 10 cards. Then you can activate invocation in the graveyard, shuffles itself back in the deck. So at least that way you can guarantee to still have at least one invocation in your deck, so that the Alistairs are still live. But yeah, I still think it's a good card to play. You could play like Prosperity or something else if you like to, or even Extravagance if you're really YOLO. But I think this one's better than the other ones, at least at one. Terraforming for the magical meltdown search. Not much to say about that. Call by the Graves. This card helped me a lot yesterday. There's a few times where I hard casted the Red Eyes Fusion. My opponent tries to ash him. I just call by the grave, and the game was basically over there. So it's a pretty sacky card. Like it's still like it should stay at one, but yeah, it's a very sacky card, I guess. So you can. I definitely recommend playing one because it also works as like a DD Crow and stuff too if you need to. But yeah, Call by the Graves, good card there. Mind Control is okay. It's good going second card. Going first, it's pretty bad, but going second, it's a pretty good card. I won a game with it yesterday. Just trying to mind control to bait out some stuff, force my opponent to kind of, react to it weirdly. But yeah, mind control can get rid of some problematic cards. You can even mind control something and fuse with it, or you mind control and link with it. Usually, you're gonna mind control and link away. So, yeah, mind control, pretty good card there. And lastly, just one instant fusion, just as another way to get a body on board without committing too much, because you really are just trying to pump out Verde in this deck as much as possible. There's a couple tricks you can do with this card, but yeah, well, just one instant fusion. Not much to say about that. Next off for the trap lineups, I'm playing 3 Impermanence. Yeah, Impermanence is just Impermanence. Pretty good card there. Not much to say about it. Next off here, I'm playing 2 Solemn Strikes. So Solemn Strike for me, it's one of those cards that is very versatile. Because if you go first and you set a strike, you're pretty good. You go second and you can play slowly. you can set a strike and pass turn and still be pretty good. So strike is just good and just like kind of going first or second. Um, and the only reason I'm not playing three because obviously I just don't want to burn myself that much. 1500 each time. So I'm playing the two because I have room, and yeah, they work pretty well. Granted, I didn't really see them too much yesterday, but when I do see them, they clutch the game, I guess, because a lot of people aren't expecting to see a Solemn Strike anymore. So pretty good there. And finally, just have the one punishment. I wouldn't play more than one, namely because it locks you out of your extra deck for a turn. But this card is great if you have the boards locked down and you don't need the fusion summon anymore. You can just play punishment to kind of snipe a card or two off of the board, or do something. I guess it's kind of like your third Nadir in the sense because it's a 2-for-1. So yeah, and it's searchable with Ecclesia. So why not? You can play Ecclesia, search this card, and take a slow control game that way instead. So that's it for the main deck. Let's go over the extra deck, and then we'll go over the side. So for extra deck, still playing the one Dragoon, still the mainstay of the deck here, and not much to say about it. It's your boss monster, it's your win con. Going second with Dragoon is pretty good because you oftentimes will OTK with this card if your opponent's not careful. If they don't stop Dragoon from coming out, you pop two monsters, burn for a bunch, and attack for 3 or 4,000. That's pretty good. On top of it, you usually have like a macabre or some sort of invoked monster to back him up. So yeah, him plus like another fusion on the board usually means game. So pretty good there. Next off, you got two macabres. Yeah, your other secondary fusion, your other secondary card that you want to get out is this card. He's not as good as Dragoon for sure, but still good 25 beater, good negation there. Not much to say about that. And then you have this thing, Alugodes, Alugodes. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not too sure. Yeah, just another good. You can super poly with this thing. You can fusion with it. It's a pretty good control card. Like once you bring it out, your opponent has a harder time special summoning because you just can kind of blow things up for free, and then you can attack for a big number. If you have like a Dragoon or something in your graveyard or Macabre, you just banish it, pump this thing by, another, like make it like a 4,500 beater or something like that. You can sometimes attack for game with it, so still a pretty good card there. Purga Trio, because you are playing Ash Blossom and there are some fire types that you need. Another target for Super Poly. This card won me a game yesterday, which was pretty good. So just a one Purga Trio. I don't think you really need to bring out more than one. Actually, that space in this deck is pretty tight anyways, so just a one. Raijin for those wind decks and stuff like that are floating around. Yeah, Raijin is one way to kind of out them. You can super poly them, or you can use this as an instant fusion target. Instant fusion Raijin out, flip something that's a threat face down, and then just link away with him into like a verte or something like that. And that's come up a few times, so yeah, Raijin's not too bad to play. Last off would be Kaliga. Another super poly target, another invocation target, instant fusion target. You bring him out, you have a cross sheep, or you summon him, you link him away for a cross sheep, and you fusion summon. You can also bring him out again with the cross sheep. So just some synergy there. Yeah, still a pretty good card. And you sometimes, if you need to, you can sit on him, and you'll force your opponent to kind of you can stall for time. He's basically kind of like a mini Mystic Mine, I guess, sorta. But yeah, it can kind of come in clutch sometimes. So this I wasn't playing before. I was playing Omega before because I was playing Triple Nadir, and back then you needed like another card to make Nadir worth it. But nowadays, since Nadir's at 2, I decided to take it out and decided to play the Venom Dragon again. So Venom Dragon works really well with Predaplant Vert, because with Predaplant Vert, you can target your opponent's monster or your own monster, and you can make him a dark type. So you can often go summon Vert, activate its ability to make something a dark type, and then you can activate Vert's ability and send like a super poly to the graveyard, and you fuse those two monsters away. So make a Venom here. So yeah, that's why we're playing the Venom, And Venom's good. I mean, there's a lot of dark type decks that are running around too. So like, you always have DPE or Phoenix Enforcer, and yeah, I believe Phoenix Enforcer is a dark type, not a fire type, if I recall correctly. Phoenix. Sorry, I'm trying to type on my keyboard here. Phoenix. Actually, let me see here. Yeah, yeah. So Phoenix Enforcer is a dark type for sure. So yeah, so you can always super poly Phoenix Enforcer away for this. Um, or I guess the second option is Predator Pant, the Drago Stelpelia, whatever you call it. So either one, this one's a better monster because this one can kind of negate activated effects, which is nice. It doesn't negate all effects; it negates activated effects. So, but still, he has a better effect than Venom does, but he requires a dark and a fusion. So either way, you can go into one or the other. But yeah, this is kind of like your way to out a DPE or out another Dragoon with a super poly. So, or if you're playing against like Shadows or something like that, you can use either one of these um, to get rid of stuff. Or like I said, you can use Predator Plant, Anaconda plus a super poly to do some funny stuff with the card. Um, and the best generic um, super poly target you can have for the deck is the Mud Dragon here. And I think I summoned him quite a few times yesterday, like super poly a bunch of people's stuff away, or super poly my own Predator Plant Anaconda plus one of their monsters away, and brought out this swamp dude. So yeah, he actually was pretty clutch for me. Since I wasn't playing the Venom Dragon yesterday, um, I think I would have went into Venom Dragon a little bit more, but I ended up going to Swamp, and he was just fine as a fusion material. Obviously he's a little bit weaker, but still big beefy boy there. So like, kind of good for. I guess his effect is kind of decent too if you ever get around to using his effect. But yeah, not much to say about that. You're playing one Titaniclad for the Nadir target. So your two Nadir targets are really just this, Nadir or Punishment. So there's nothing else in the deck that I'm really playing that you want to send to the graveyard. I'm not playing the Shadow Schism combo. I tried that out. I didn't like it. You break a lot with that thing, so and you minus a lot with it. So I just opted just to play these two as your main targets for Nadir. And yeah, and then Cross Sheep was doing pretty well for me. You can kind of combo off with this card sometimes. Um, I think yesterday I went into like Alistair and then Ecclesia, then well, Ecclesia I already had on board. Um, Linked them away for a Cross Sheep, Fusion Summon, got back to Ecclesia, activate her effect. You can kind of plus off with this card. Synergy between this, Ecclesia, the Kaliga. Bringing back an Alistair doesn't really mean too much if you have Alistair on board. But if you do bring back an Alistair on board, you can leave him there as a body to super poly with. So yeah, Cross Sheep does do quite a bit for the deck, so I still like it. And the last two cards are basically just your other main links, which is going to be Verte here. You always want to try to get him to as soon as possible. You can even play two in case one gets negated and destroyed. You can play a second copy if you want to. I found it mostly unnecessary. If they negated this or destroyed this card, you can always hard cast the Red Eyes Fusion, which is what I usually end up doing anyways. If they stop the Verte, most of the time people don't stop Verte because they kind of blow their hand traps and their negation on your Alistair summon or your Ecclesia summon. So by the time you get out Verte, most of the time they don't have a way to stop Verte. So at least from my experience. And then your last kind of your way to start your combo off in some decks is just to send a Ecclesia or send an Alistair to the graveyard, summon her, and you can kind of proceed to combo off from there. I never felt like I needed to summon more than one. I don't play the Amirage and secure 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 guard anymore. That's still a decent combo if you're playing like the Maximus. If you're playing Maximus, Dogmatika Maximus, then you can do that instead. But I found that, like I said, there's not much. Like if you summon a Maximus, like what are you gonna really dump? You know, especially with this type of build. I'm not. You're not really gonna be dumping anything super worthwhile. So Maximus to me, I think is just kind of pointless in the deck. Um, so I opted not to play Maximus. I opted to focus on primarily um, getting out Dragoon, and then using Invocation to get out Macabre, or using Super Poly to break my opponent's board, and that has worked out pretty well. And so all the fusions in here are just meant for mostly to do that, to Super Poly away your opponent's board, or to just regular fusion here. So that's the extra deck. Let's go quickly through the side deck here. Not too much has changed, but here you go. Two Phantasme. Phantasme is nice against certain link decks. You can always shuffle away your bricks. You can shuffle away Dark Magician, Red Eyes. Still a pretty decent card against certain matchup. Against Sky Strikers, stuff like that. They have a hard time kind of dealing with him. So pretty nice. He does kind of shitty against DPE, so just be careful of that because DPE doesn't target. So yeah, so just be careful about playing him, but it's still pretty decent. Two Lancias, I guess for Dino decks or some I don't know. Everyone's still playing Thunder Dragons or something like that. You can have him out, and he's still a pretty decent card against them. Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre, I think, is mainly used against Sword Souls and stuff like that. They summon a Sword Soul monster and pitch. You can blow up their monster, and they usually will kind of pass their turn at that point. So yeah, Ghost Ogre is still not a bad card. Although she sees fringe play, so but I think she still can work. Next off, triple Cyclone. I was playing a Twin Twister, but I ended up just taking out one Twin Twister and just putting back another Cyclone. Only problem with Cyclones, they cost a bunch of life points to use, so but it doesn't matter too much. It's good to hit stuff. It banishes instead of destroying, which is kind of relevant because some stuff will provide like protection from destruction, but this card banishes, so it's pretty nice. Or if you hit something like an Eldritch trap card or something, at least you banish it and it won't reoccur again. So yeah, triple Cyclone here. You can't really play Twin Twister because you want to save your cards in your hand to discard for um, Red Eyes or Macabre. So oftentimes, if you play or you're saving your cards to discard for a Super Poly, so you can't really afford to play Twin Twister as much because you need cards in your hand to negate stuff. So Cosmic is just fine. Cosmic does feel bad though if you're just randomly trying to snipe a random back row in the back and you hit the wrong card. Then yeah, that's when Cosmic feels kind of bad. But a good player shouldn't do that. But it does happen. Third Super Poly. Third Super Poly is pretty good. I've sided in a few times. In a matchup where I don't think I need it, I side all three of them out. But yeah, Super Poly, the best fusion spell there is. One Dark Ruler no more. I don't think you can either play Dark Ruler or Droplet or whatever you want. Because I'm playing so many Super Polys, I don't think I need more board negation, so I'm just playing just the one here. And this is kind of a go second card. So like the deck here is like most of it is tailored to go second. Like all your hand traps and stuff like this are mostly to go second, to break boards and stuff like that. But there are a few cards I'm playing are like the go first type. So this card will wreck some decks if you're going first. If you're playing against like a fusion deck or another like mirror match, you play this, that'll wreck some going first. Or if you play against like Sword Soul, you call synchros, they just kind of end with a bunch of tokens, they don't do anything else. Or you play against like like seed spam sort of deck. So yeah, this going first is good. It doesn't solve the issue with links, but I guess you technically have Phantasme to play against links. Um, but yeah, the barrier's pretty good going first. Um, if you opt to go first, so that's my going first card. And then finally a red reboot. Red reboots you can kind of resolve certain cards and maybe potentially OTK sometimes. So this is another going second card against a back roll heavy deck. Red reboot. You're gonna red reboot them and then you're just gonna try to OTK. I don't think you're gonna be able to survive another turn of a deck that sets a bunch of traps back there. Or you red reboot and you Harpy's Feather Dusters. That's the ideal combo there. But yeah, so that's it for the main deck, side deck, and all other stuff. So let's go. I'm gonna try to quickly talk about my games yesterday. So it was a I think yeah 30-person tournament. There's supposed to be 5 rounds, but we ended it at 4 rounds because um, the last round it was a tie, but the um, if it ended in a tie, but um, both of the players didn't want another round to go on because it was getting kind of late, so they just end up dice rolling. I know you're not supposed to do that, but just for the sake of time and everyone agreed to it. We just kind of just like, all right, well, just dice roll for it, see who gets the win, and just call it a day there. So yesterday I got third, which is pretty good, and my friend got second, and then his he was playing against his opponent. He just dice rolled it to see who got first. So he ended up getting second. I think if he won the dice roll, he would have gotten first, and I would have gotten second. Because I'll explain it to you. He was the so we're it's just local, so we're not really like super crazy. But so I guess game one, or game two, I play against my friend. So we test play with each other all the time, and we officially play it out, but I ended up just giving him the win so he can try to carry us to victory because I think his deck was better than mine. He's playing Shadol's Punk Dogmatika Shadol deck. So we test play against each other, and I think his deck is better than mine's, maybe. So I just let him take the win so that he can try to kind of carry us, because we kind of play as a team, I guess. But we play fair. Like we don't do anything like that would make it unfair for other players or anything like that. We just tend to like to combine our winnings together and kind of share the pot. But yeah, so he took second, I took third. So we played 4 rounds. Round one I won. Round two I guess I lost to my friend there. Round three I won, and round four I won. And technically, I guess him and me, either one of us could have went undefeated. Yes, let me talk about the game matches first, and that will make more sense here. So, first game I played against whatchamacallit. I played against damn, what the hell is that deck called? Let me look it up real quick. I always forget the card name. Yeah, Altergeist. There you go. Okay, I always forget the Altergeist. So I played against Altergeist first round. Game one, I think he goes first. Sets like 3 or 4. Summons Altergeist. What's the 1600 attack one? I forget the name of that card. Yeah, he summons the 1600 attack and passes his turn. So he has like 4 sets in the 1600 attack Altergeist monster. I draw. So I think at first I try to summon out a Pinkertops. He goes Solemn Strike. Okay, I go Harpy's Feather Duster. He goes Solemn. So he's already down a bunch of life points. Okay, I didn't draw much. I think he ended up activating a Village Spellcaster on me too. But I honestly didn't have anything to summon, nor none of my or no, he didn't activate village first. He had something else. I think turn two he activates the village, but I had two of these in my hand for a while, and I couldn't really do anything with them yet. Um, but anyway, so I pass back to him. He attacks me. I think I tried to Dogmatika um, punishment his his 1600 attacker. He plays another Solemn Judgment, so he's at like 1625 or something right now. I was like, okay, all right, and pass back to me. I didn't draw anything. Oh, I think I drew Red Eyes Fusion, but he had a Secret Village out, and ironically, I didn't have a Spellcaster in hand. I did have Spellcaster in hand, but I couldn't summon this thing just quite. So I pass it back to him. He goes, he sets something, attacks me, and then I draw. I draw into a virtuous. I was like, okay, I drew a spellcaster, so now I can play. So I summoned the virtuous. Tried to activate her effect. He like um, impermanence me. I was like, okay, that's fine. I send her to the grave to summon out Armides here, and then this way I can start summoning these guys out. It's just a beat stick. So try to activate it to summon him. Think he like gates it again or something. I was like, okay, go. And then he goes, tries to enter battle phase. I summon another one of these things out um, during his turn. And then he runs over this thing, and I attack over his monster. And he tries to, or he sends his 1600 monster to the graveyard to negate this effect with the Altergeist trap card. So he has nothing on the board, and I have Armides. Passes back to me. I activate Red Eyes Fusion. He scoops there. So that was basically the trade back and forth there. Um, because even with Secret Village on the board, I had Armides here, so I activated Red Eyes Fusion, and he didn't have an answer to that. So there you go. That was game one. Game two, he goes first against sets a bunch of stuff. Yeah, it's Ultra Guy, so I expect a bunch of stuff, right? So my turn. I go. What did I do here? I think I just straight up I summon he has another monster on board. I summon Pinkertops again, and he didn't really have anything to respond to that, so I attack over his monster or whatever. He does draw. He draws. I think he draws the same monster, the 1600 Alter Guys, if I remember. Not multi faker, but the other one. But he summons that, sets four again or whatever. Yeah, I summon Pinkertops. And then he goes, and then I think I run over his monster. Then he goes Kaiju. He Kaiju's the big turtle on my Pinkertops, activates another. Oh, I guess he goes first. He activates village. So I at that time I didn't have a spellcaster in my hand, but I do Pinkertops and I run over his monster. I was debating on popping the village with Pinkertops, but I was like, I didn't really have any useful spell in my hands to activate anyways. I think I had Red Eyes Fusion in my hand, but I decided to like I'll just wait and maybe do something else later. So he goes, he summons the Kaiju, gets rid of my Dino, Pinkertops dude, and then activates multiverse or whatever, the trap card, sends the village to the graveyard, and then plays Mystic Mine, and I was like, okay, that's fine. My turn. I draw into I think a Cosmic, so I go Cosmic the Mystic Mine. He has no response to that. I activate Red Eyes Fusion, and then he scoops, because he looked at his cards, his back row, and all of his back row were targeting removal, and he couldn't deal with a Red Eyes Dragoon plus the Kaiju that he gave to me, so he ended up scooping there. Pretty bad draws for him, I guess. And for me, I guess I just had good answers to his board state, and he just couldn't answer my board state. So I 2-0 the Ultra Guys. Game two, I play against my friend. We play it out kind of, and I just give him the win. So that was my only loss technically of the day so far. So I'm X1. Go to game two, and I play against I guess a DPE Dark Heroes deck. So they were doing mass change with Dark Law, DPE, stuff like that. So game one, it's kind of weird because game one we go back and forth for a little bit. He gets out DPE. I eventually get out a yeah, I eventually get out a like I think he keeps negating my stuff. So like I try to I summon Alistair, he negates that. I summon um like a vert. I think he negates that. So I end up on a board, pretty weak board, but I think we play it back and forth. But I end up grinding him out, even though he had DP. His DP wasn't really doing anything. I eventually get out a macabre. So now his DP is kind of useless because if he activates it, I can just activate Macabre's effect in response. But his board was pretty weak. He had like a malicious, a link monster, DPE, and something small. Because I think he tries to mass change something. And I super poly away his mass change target with along with my predator plant that wasn't really doing anything into the mud rock dragon. Because like I said, I wasn't playing Venom Dragon, so I couldn't really do anything other than use those two as material for the Mudrock Dragon. But game one, I end up winning because I think I have a Ecclesia on board. What is this over here? I summon out a Alistair. I go into Cross Sheep, and then yeah, I get the fusion out, get the Macabre out, plus get the sorry, my yeah. So I get out. Not no. Why am I doing that? Get out Cross Sheep. I get out. Bring back the Ecclesia from the graveyard. Search for Fleur, and then he scoops from there because he at this point the game's already over. I had a pretty big board, and he had just a DPE and stuff like that, and it wasn't gonna answer like anything on the board here. So yeah, that was game one. Game two, he goes Hero Lives. Gets out I think a Dark Law, or I know he gets out the Shadow hero. Gets his mass chain, so I know he's capable of bringing out a Dark Law. So my turn, I go. I hard play Red Eyes Fusion. He goes into Dark Law. I summon out and he does something else. And I summon out the Red Eyes Dragoon, and then I think he realized that that's basically a game because I would just pop his Dark Law and attack for 3,000 because he paid half life points for Hero's Fusion and realized he couldn't deal with the Dragoon that I brought out. So yeah, that was a game. Like you just have to. Sometimes you do that knowing that if your opponent can't deal with this thing, it just kind of ends the game right there. Game three, or I guess round four. So far my record it's 2-0. 2-0 Altergeist, lost to my friend. 2-0 the Dark Hero deck with DPE in it. Phoenix Enforcer. Game three was or game round four was an interesting one. I was playing against a 60 card deck. It ran like 4 different engines. It had Sword Souls, it had Punks, it had the Brave token stuff, and like I don't even know, like it was playing 10 Ys. It's got like everything under it. It was 60 card combo deck. So I go first. I opted to go first. So I get out Dragoon on the board. I have a Verte on the board. Because I think I summon Alistair, he negates the Alistair. I special summon, or I summon her. I summon Ecclesia. I go into a vert, bring out this. I have a super poly in hand also, and a deer, and an impermanence. So I had this. This was my hand, I think, after doing all that. So I had the 5 cards, right? So oops, not this. So I had the deer and impermanence. So this was basically my opening hand right here. So that was my opening hand. So what I did was now this is 2 in the graveyard, and I don't, because he negated my Alistair. I don't have invocation, so that was my graveyard here. So with this, I decided to go Nadir. I dump the Titanic Clad, and use the Tan class effect to go ahead and add, or Nadir to add Ecclesia to my hand, and then the Tan class effect to add this, and then set 2. So that was my board state. So I have 2 sets, plus Red Eyes, plus 2 cards in my hand, and a Super Poly. He does something, with the punks and whatnot. I think I pitched this thing to negate with Red Eyes. He combos off some more, brings out another monster. I impermanence one of the monster effects. He keeps comboing off. So now I'm down to basically just these 2. He brings out a Barrel Dragon. He goes into the Despot combo with a Ronodon, or the I forgot the name, the Link monster that summons a bunch of tokens. Goes into that, goes into Barrel Savage Dragon, equips, I think, one of his monsters to it now. So his monsters, I'm not sure if it's bigger than Red Eyes Dragoon or not at this moment. But anyways, he sacrifices the Ronodon plus 2 tokens to try to kill my Predapant Verte. And so I go Super Poly, I pitch this, I Super Poly away his Board Lord Savage, plus this thing, and I made a Murdrock Dragon. My turn, I go, I draw something, I don't remember what I even draw. I blow up his board, and then he ends up scooping because he's down to like 1 set card and stuff like that. He can't deal with the Dragoon. He only got 2 cards and a token left, so he scoops. Go to game 2. Now this is the craziest part. Now my hand was other garbage, I think, and this was the one game I thought I was for sure gonna lose here. So let me try to recreate what I drew. I sided a bunch of stuff, knowing that I'm gonna go second because he's a combo deck, right? So he's gonna be going first. I think I had something like I know I didn't draw any fusion cards or any good any hand traps, I guess. I think I had that, and yeah. So this was my opening hand against him. So he combos off, and like, holy cow, dude, his deck was pretty cool. So I thought it was pretty cool. Sorry, I'm not familiar with all the current cards in the set. So let me look up, and I will tell you what he had. Hopefully this video is not super duper long. Sword So. Not this card. Okay, I think I got what he has on here. Yeah, sorry for the pause there. I was trying to figure out what monster he had on the board. All right. So yeah, he combos off. He goes into like Adventure, Brave tokens. Goes into Auroradon. He goes into Punks. He had full combo. I sat there like, you know what? Go for it, man. Do you. Try to make it quick. Or if I have to scoop this game, I will. So he makes his board. So he has the Adventure, continuous spell face up, 2 sets, and on his board he had a Baroness in defense mode. I don't remember why it's in defense mode, but I think one of the ways he had to bring it out, he had to go into defense mode because he did the Despot combo. I tried to follow along with his combo, but there's a bunch of stuff that was going on. But I was like, you know what, I trust you. You're not cheating, right? So I paid attention in case there's certain things I needed to watch out for. But anyways, he had a Baroness. He had Sword Soul, Qing Yang, the synchro monster, and No, no, not Qingyan. Sorry, he had Sword Soul, Shisao. I think that's how you pronounce it. The Sword Soul Grandmaster Shisao. Um, and then he also had Sword Soul, the Sovereign, Xing Long Ying, Yuang. I forget. Sorry, my Mandarin and stuff has been kind of garbage. After one semester of Mandarin, I stopped taking Mandarin, so totally forget how to pronounce all those words. Anyway, so yeah, he had those three synchro monsters on the board, plus a token and two sets, and no cards in hand, plus the adventure field spell, or not field spell, adventure continuous spell. So this is my hand. I look at it, I was like, all right, well, this is kind of garbage. I don't know if I can beat this guy, right? So I go. I think I just start off with the magical meltdown. I think it was kind of a mistake. So he activates the Long Yuang, and banishes my meltdown. I was like, all right, well, I take 1,200 there. I got 4 cards left. All right, let's just see. So I go mind control to target the Baroness. He negates it with the Baroness, so that's another card down. And I was like, all right, I don't know what I can do at this point to win, but I activate desires, right? And I think I end up drawing. I forgot what I even draw for my turn. I had one more card. I think I drew. I think I ended up drawing like an invocation or something like that. So, anyways, I activate desires. I end up drawing, I think, this plus like a red eyes fusion or something like that. I think I end up drawing something like this, right? So my hand's still not that great, but I think I was like looking at his board. I was like, I think I can make this work. So I summon the Alistair. I think he tries to he tries to Chi Shao the Alistair. He activates Chi Shao to try to negate the Alistair's effect. So I go super poly. So I super poly with the Alistair plus his Long Yuang. And now I resolve Alistair. I grab another invocation, and so now I have a Purgatrio on the board, and I think now all I have to really worry about is his face down. So I go invocation, banish one of his lights, bring out a macabre. Macabre. Oh, why am I looking there? So this is what I have on board. I add back the Alistair, this. So now my hand's looking still like hot garbage, but it's fine. Now I got Purgatrio that's got like boosted by 1,400 or so, so he's like 3,700 attack. So I'd say, all right. So at this point, I could have been greedy and attack, and then did a pump the Alistair to I guess to like 3,500, or sorry, he was at 37 to 4,700, but I decided to save the Alistair just in case I needed to negate something or whatnot, or pump a macabre. So I attack his token, did 37, and I attack over the Shin Zhao, and I attack over the Baroness. So I clear his board with the Purgatrio, and he had no response. I was like, okay, so he's pretty low now. I think he was like 30 something 100 life points, like 35 or something like that, or whatever. So I attack with Macabre for it would be game because I have an Alistair in hand. I can pump up the Macabre here. And then he goes into E-Telly, and I think I activate Macabre here. I think I discarded Invocation, the second one I had. Negated his E-Telly, and then attack, and then Alistair him. And yeah, for game. So that was how I broke a board full of negators. So with pretty hot garbage hand. So yeah, I end up 2-0ing him with that. With just those 2 cards. So that was basically the last game of the day for me. So pretty interesting, huh? So I don't know if that was a good play or not. I have absolutely no idea. But the super poly basically was where it went downhill for him because he just couldn't stop it. And then me getting Purgatrio out means I could deal with his whole board and deal a lot of damage at the same time, on top of being able to get out a Macabre too. So it's just the fact that I guess I had to try to bait out some of his negates and stuff like that. I think my misplay was activating the Meltdown first. Like I should have not activated Meltdown. I should have started off with Mind Control and then play the Desires to see what I would have drawn, and then play the Meltdown, and then go from there. To or if I guess if I Desires and I drew into if I still drew into this and Red Eyes Fusion, the results would have been the same, but I would have an extra Alistair in my hand and Meltdown to kind of protect my fusion summons. But yeah, so I guess it didn't really matter that much. Yeah, my misplay was just playing into the Sovereign without really thinking. But yeah, um, that was how the games went there. So pretty good shoulder deck. I two-doled everyone I played against, whether I went second or first. It didn't matter. So I like the how the deck went and how it worked out so far. Might make a couple more changes to the deck, but yeah. So I got third place, and I think altogether me and my friend won a pot of like 80 store credit or something like that between us two, which is pretty nice. Like we don't really use store credit for anything other than just buying like sleeves, I guess, because we end up buying most of our cards on TCG Player anyways. But yeah, so that's basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile and a bit of the storytelling. And you got any questions or suggestions, just let me know. Otherwise, you guys have a good one. Take care.